Back in 2010, Sonic Team released Episode 1 of the Sonic 4 series. It was met with mixed reviews from reviewers and normal players. After listening to the qualms that they had, mainly things like the wonky physics, uncurling, and bland stage design, Sonic Team came back and revised the formula for the second outing. The result? A new, more improved Sonic 4 that's a little better than expected. So join me as I review Sonic the Hedgehog 4, Episode 2. As mentioned earlier, one of the biggest gripes that Episode 1 has was its wonky physics, as well as the uncurling when launching off of a ramp, and overall bland stage design. Thankfully, just as they improved the story, Sonic Team also improved the gameplay features here in Episode 2. The physics are much more closer to the Genesis titles, so while you won't be able to stop midway when running up a 90-degree angle, nor will you stay the same speed when rolling down a hill, but gradually gain speed the longer you roll. Also, uncurling is finally gone, so if you launch up a ramp as a ball, you will remain in ball form unless you perform the returning move, the homing attack. But those improvements aren't even the biggest thing that separate Episode 1 from Episode 2. So what is? It comes in the form of a young, yellow, two-tailed fox. The classic Sonic 2 duo is back, with Sonic the Hedgehog now once again being accompanied by his trusty sidekick, Miles Tails Proud. What makes this different from when Tails accompanied Sonic back in Sonic 2 is that he just isn't there to somewhat follow and spam the ring loss and or lost life sound effect, but rather, he and Sonic can use team combo maneuvers which come in the form of three kinds. A spin dash maneuver, where Sonic and Tails roll into one partially infinite ball, which is twice as powerful than a regular spin dash. Similar to the Sonic Boost technique, this move will plow through enemies and break certain objects. If the duo hit into a solid wall 3 times, they'll break apart and revert back to their normal forms. While this move is nice to use for a quick burst of speed and a way to plow through a line of ground-based enemies, it can be a challenge to control, seeing that you launch off into one direction without any way to purposely slow down or even change direction. The second maneuver is a swimming maneuver, where Sonic latches onto Tails, propels them both through the water a lot more efficiently than simply running wood. There's no limit to how much Tails can swim, except for the dreadful air counter which is making a return, as you would expect it to. You'll have to search for air bubbles and rise above the surface as much as possible to a story from Finding Nemo said, "Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, 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 just stop." Okay. Finally, a flying maneuver which is making a return from the old Genesis titles. Like in Sonic Heroes, you can automatically call Tails to start flying by will. Except this time, you don't have to switch roles to where he's the lead character. As always, except for back in Sonic Adventure 2, Tails has a limit as to how long he can fly, before he gets tired and slowly starts falling back down to the ground. While this move is mainly used to reach higher areas, or make it over long gaps, this move is also really useful for saving yourself from what could be a really cheap death. I can't count how many times I've been activating this move in order to save me a good life. So what about that stage design? Episode 1 stages were basically a carbon copy from the classic Genesis stages, with some slight changes here and there. Thankfully, Episode 2 improves on that, even though it's quite similar to past stages in some areas. They have a little more thought and depth put into them this time around. These stages feel new and fresh. The designs aren't half bad either. There's a few speed sections here, and then a few platforming areas there. And then, there are the swimming areas. My goodness. Episode 1 has difficulty spikes, but Episode 2 takes the cake. In a single zone, there are 3 acts and a boss fight. Like in episode 1, there's no real specific order in which you have to play these different zones. Yet even so, there isn't any zone that is necessarily more difficult than the other. In a single zone, Act 1 could be a total breeze, while Act 2 could be a total murder. Like White Park Zone, for example, which kicked my butt and handed it to me on a silver platter. This pattern repeats itself a little more than one would hope for. Now, I own the mobile version, so one might ask, how are the touch controls? While not as comfortable as an analog stick or physical D-pad, the virtual buttons worked quite nicely when playing on a Nexus 7. They were responsive and not too tight at all. Despite its flaws, the overall gameplay of Sonic 4 Episode 2 is still an improvement over what we saw in Episode 1. Considering Sonic Team had some practice with the classic Sonic stages back in the 2011 release of Sonic Generations, it was nice to see what they were able to do by taking inspiration from those and implemented some of it here into Episode 2 to have created a solid gameplay style. Tails' presence is not actually annoying, but quite helpful. The stage design is also quite nice, and the boss battles can even be fun. Back at Episode 1, it wasn't a completely bad looking game at all, but the graphics of Episode 2 completely trump it in every single way. Episode 1 was almost a completely 2D game, with only a handful of 3D elements, which was mainly focused on Sonic's character model, the bosses and enemies, which is similar to Sonic Rush. Episode 2, on the other hand, is completely 2.5D. Looks like Sonic Team didn't just take gameplay inspiration from the classic Sonic stages and Generations, but they also brought their visual quality as well. Just look at the footage, see for yourself. It's amazing how close the two are in terms of visual quality. Even on the mobile devices, mainly the HD versions, they look immensely close to the console versions of the game, as well as Sonic Generations. Episode 2 boasts some really sweet lighting and shadow effects, as well as some sleek reflections and light amounts of bloom and depth of field. Just like Episode 1, the colors are also bright and vivid, and are really eye-catching. Put this all together, and Episode 2 is a pretty fine looking game. Even if its visual quality isn't on par with, say, a game like Rayman Legends, it's still one of the most beautiful platformers out there, and easily one of the most beautiful Sonic games to date. As with all, if not most Sonic games, Episode 2's soundtrack is pretty top-notch. To accompany the decent stage design, the stage themes are quite nice to listen to. There are a few recycled themes from Episode 1 though. You'll hear familiar tracks like the title screen, the main screen, world map, and options, as well as the boss theme and stage result theme. Even so, the new tracks sound much better than Episode 1's stage themes. They feature more dynamic instruments, and don't sound as plain and basic as what we saw back in Episode 1. Indeed, Sonic Team definitely put their best foot forward here, as the soundtrack to Episode 2 sounds great. One of my biggest beefs with Episode 1 was the fact that its story was quite unimaginative. It didn't have anything new and worthwhile like Sonic Advance and Sonic Rush. So what did Sonic Team do? Well, they decided to spice things up. How? Well, once again creating a time paradox, just like what we saw back in Sonic 2006. The story goes a little bit farther than the basic Sonic vs. Eggman plot that we saw back in Episode 1. This time around, the Doctor has revived his Metal Sonic creation, who Sonic defeated back in Sonic CD. Metal now returns to his original objective to find and take down Sonic, while Eggman works to build a new Death Egg space station around the Little Planet, which is also returning from Sonic CD. While this story definitely has more depth than what we saw back in Episode 1, one thing is still strange. What's with the whole return of Metal Sonic bit? I say that due to the fact that Metal Sonic's official revival was all the way back in the 2003 release of Sonic Heroes. The fact that Metal's now returning from Sonic CD basically voids the events of Sonic Heroes, making it seem like they almost never happened. Paradox aside, Episode 2's storyline is definitely an improvement from Episode 1's outing. Sonic 4 Episode 2 was a pleasant surprise that I was not expecting to enjoy as much as I had. It basically trumps everything that we saw in Episode 1, which, for a successor, is a good thing. A slightly deeper storyline gives the plot a little more traction, even if it is a bit of a head-scratcher. The improved controls, solid stage design, as well as the return of Tails in addition to the team combo techniques give a nice boost to the overall fun factor. All of this is complemented by a nice soundtrack and beautiful graphics, which make Episode 2 truly feel like a true revival to the 2D Sonic brand, something that Episode 1 wasn't able to completely accomplish when it was released. While Episode 2 isn't perfect, it was still a pretty sweet game to play nonetheless. And with an Episode 3 probably not happening, I think it's safe to say that Episode 2 sealed the deal on the Sonic 4 franchise quite nicely. So with its pros being a nice level design, sweet soundtrack, Tails actually being useful, and amazing graphics, indeed Sonic 4 Episode 2 was an enjoyable experience that I would recommend to anyone who's a Sonic fan or who just likes platforming games in general. Its score is brought down by difficulty spikes and a time paradox of a storyline, but that definitely doesn't change the fact that it well deserves an 8.5 out of 10, with the title of very good. So with that said, I want to thank you guys for joining me today for another Extreme Game Review, and I hope that you join me again for my future videos. Until next time, hope you have a great day, keep on gaming. See you later.